Testing. 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 Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Happy Sunday. Can you guys hear me? Thanks, guys, for confirming. How are you guys doing? Where are you guys all from? I see Wee commenting here. Skinny Runt. Where are you guys from? Jay Dan, thanks for joining as well. Happy Sunday, everyone. I appreciate the comment there, Wee on the content. I try to keep the content coming consistently and at least having a live session every weekend. So appreciate you guys all joining here. We definitely do see some external factors with news and information. We have a lot to cover here. I also want to take any questions that you guys have. So if you have any questions, I would appreciate just putting a Q there and just asking the question there. I'd love to see what questions you guys have so that I can cover it. But currently, I mean, it is scary. I mean, Skinny, you got a point there on how fast Bitcoin is dropping, right? Right now, 97,000. I mean, it was up like in the 105,000s, and then started the weekend, things started just going down, and most of us are wondering what's going to happen come tomorrow when the stock market opens. Are we going to see like our investments like go down the drain, or what's going to happen? So I'm with you all. Most of us are wondering like what's going to happen. Of course, we have to keep in mind there's volatility going on, and most of us are wondering, is this tariffs things? Is it good for us? Is it bad for us? What is this all going to do? I think that overall, yes, while tariffs is essentially a good thing for the U.S. economy, when you look at it on a global scale, tariffs can potentially slow down the global markets, where these sellers from different countries, they're going to get hit with having to pay taxes to the United States. So what are they going to do? They're going to slow down their selling or reposition to sell elsewhere. So that really slows down the velocity of globalized trading. Okay, so question here from Skinny. Do you think it will return to normal levels by the end of the week? That's a good point. So all of this here, I really do think that, just with the recent tariff news, I mean, that dropped the Bitcoin price down below, just let me just reshare my screen here. Just looking at overall Bitcoin price, this has really caused the price of Bitcoin going down. Tariffs, we saw what triggered the stock market last Monday, DeepSeek revolution coming out, that really freaking cooked all of us. I mean, that wiped out trillions of dollars in the stock market with DeepSeek. But we started seeing things tighten up again, and we saw Bitcoin, like resilient as it is, it started climbing back up to 106,000. But started the weekend, it's been going down here. And I think all of this has to do with the macroeconomic factors, at least with the latest wave of tariffs that Donald Trump imposed on Canada, Mexico, and China. I think this is a win for the United States, getting, the foreign countries to pay taxes to the US government. I don't think that this is really going to have a long-term implication. I do think that this is really just going to cause short-term reaction. and that we're going to see some healthy movements with the stock market as well as Bitcoin as well. However, come next week, we may see some volatility. I don't have the magic 8 ball to say we're going to go up or down, but just looking at the technicals, the EMA for Bitcoin compared to the current price, it's much lower right now. So the simple moving average is below the actual price here of Bitcoin, as well as exponential moving average. It's tilting downward as well. But I think that where we are, especially with the recent price drop, there's strong evidence that institutions remain strong in that we have ETFs created. BlackRock continues to buy up Bitcoin. MicroStrategy continues to buy up Bitcoin. So I don't think much of that has changed. And the end result is, yes, there's the global trade wars going on, but overall, we're not in a recession or anything like that. Yes, we may get like a 5-10% correction, but I think that the US Bitcoin reserve, that remains as a promising factor for Bitcoin's long-term prospects. All right, so let's take a look here. So it looks like we got folks commenting here. So Drizzy TV, we're cooked. Jay Dan, roller coaster ride. Yes, it's been a big time roller coaster ride. The Vineyards, thank you for joining. There is no reasons for tariffs to affect Bitcoin at all. This has scared smallholders and shorts. Yeah, I think shorts are just trying to take any information and stir the pot and create FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market. All of that's just, what everyone's good at. Here's a posting from Plan B just not too long ago. Previous bull markets, 2013, 2017, 2020, 2021, had multiple months of RSI of over 80. 80 plus means those red dots there. So according to Plan B, he's a well-respected guy here who lives and breathes Bitcoin. We will see 3 dots in 2025 bull market. Historically, monthly return in red dots is 40%. So 100K times 1.4 to the third, we're looking at 270,000 there. So looking at the recent bull market here, we haven't even got RSI with red dots yet. So just looking at the historical patterns here, RSI of 80, we're not even there yet. So I think that this gives us a good depiction that Bitcoin 2025, we're going to see huge upsides. I do think that in this quarter alone, 130, 150K, to me, 2025, we can see at least Bitcoin getting up to 200K. All right, Skinny Runt, for MSTR stock, how badly do you think it will affect the earnings announcement this week? So Skinny, let me know what your worry is with the earnings report. So I am anticipating that with the recent news that we got from Tesla, they got $600 million in profits just holding on to 10,000 Bitcoins. Now, when you look at MicroStrategy, they have 47 times the amount of Tesla. So that just shows that, they'll take in a huge amount of unrealized gains. So I think that earnings per share, they might surprise a lot of people. All right, so William, thank you for joining, my friend. Okay, it looks like we have 18 people so far. Just let me know what your questions are. We can talk about macroeconomics. We can talk about Bitcoin miners. We can talk about MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, you name it. Just leave your questions down there, and we will dive deep. So Teasin, I don't think FASB rules come into effect this earnings for MSTR. So there's been a lot of talks about whether that kicks in for Q4 or Q1. Let's take a look at this article here. So SAB 121 has repealed via SAB 122 why Bitcoin is about to explode. So bottom line first, SAB 122 opens the floodgate for companies to report crypto custodial holdings without strangling their financials through negative accounting requirements. So what does that mean? They don't have to announce liabilities on their balance sheet, I think that this is going to be, a win-win situation here. You look at, MicroStrategy, 471,000. Mara here getting close to that 45,000 number here. Riot, 17,000. So where is Tesla on here? So Tesla here, less than 10,000, but they reported with their earnings report that with this amount of Bitcoin, a small amount of what MicroStrategy has, Tesla benefited with $600 million in profits just because of holding on to Bitcoins before the run up in Q4. Can you imagine MicroStrategy's like increase in the the net income just based on their treasury that they have, along with Mara, Riot, and CleanSpark, right? So that's going to be big time numbers that's going to be coming out here. Yeah, so I think that MSTR is going to benefit with the unrealized gains. They're going to announce it the same way that Tesla did. I don't think there's going to be any difference with that. So thank you all for joining. Let me know what your questions are. Do you want to talk Bitcoin? Do you want to talk MicroStrategy, stocks? You name it. Put your questions in the chat and we'll talk more here. What is your general prediction price of Bitcoin by 2030? Wow, that's a great question. But I think 5 years from now, I think that you know the top for 2030, oh man, that's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if it starts going to like, 500,000, like on a conservative level, Jaydan. Yeah, that's on a conservative. William has a point, 1 million. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it hits 1 million by 2030. I mean, we have like a global interest with Bitcoin, and there's only less than a million Bitcoins left. There can be countries that will just buy things up right away. So, so Tizen, thanks for sharing. I mean, it doesn't matter how many stocks you have. Whether you have thousands, whether you have millions of shares, whether you have less than one share or one share. You know, doesn't matter as long as you have conviction in it. You got some blood in it. So blood, sweat, and tears. Hopefully things start going up here. So the vineyards has 1.3 million. All right. So Alan, so if you don't mind, guys, I would appreciate you putting a Q with the question, so I could easily just decipher through and see what the questions are, and then we can definitely cover it. But just looking at this here, just seeing Tesla, they're ranked ranked number 6 with their HODL. They announced $60 million in profits just holding on to Bitcoin. So when CleanSpark announces their earnings report, Riot, Mara announces their earnings report in February, along with MicroStrategy announcing their earnings report in like the next couple of days, February 5th, I think MSTR stock price could definitely run up here. So it's going to be very exciting as we head into the next week. Although, we're all like worried here with the price of freaking Bitcoin going down. Like we're wondering, like scratching our heads, what does this mean tomorrow? Are we going to see shorters take advantage? Shorters may very well take advantage. I mean, they're using this as a hedge with Trump, announcing tariffs. I think tariffs is a good thing. I don't know why people are reacting to this. I mean, yes, it slows down global trading, right? Sellers from different countries, it eats into their profit, but overall, I think it's a win-win. So this here by, Plan B, this is a great visual here. What he's saying is that, you know, um, in this cycle, Bitcoin bull cycle, we should expect 3 dots of red. And what does red dot represent? Meaning that it's at that FOMO level, which means Bitcoin will top out, but we haven't seen that. And this is basically measurement on relative strength index of 80 plus RSI. So he's anticipating we'll get 3 red dots in this 2025 cycle here. And just looking at this posting here, I mean, There's one guy here who's saying that we've been sideways for 70 days now, and every red candle, Twitter screams the sky is falling. That's true, right? Even like right now with the red candle that we're seeing here, it's the exact reason why this is going to 140 to 170K. Those who are screaming to sell it are the ones who will be chasing it during the next leg up. So, interesting enough, this is where we are right now. We're seeing that consolidation here, right? And just with the demand for Bitcoin, let's take a look at this here. So what we're seeing is that bull flag that occurred uh, before, right? Presidency Trump, we had that bull flag established, and then what happened? We saw that next leg up here. So, I think that we're heading towards that upward trajectory. And William is suggesting tomorrow, come the market open, we're going to be above the 100K. So hopefully we see that. So Maxi, my CleanSpark average price, I mean, I've been dollar cost averaging. I was able to get more CleanSpark shares when it was like at around $9, when I was making videos suggesting to buy more. But I did buy at higher cost average as well. Okay, so Trader Insights, thanks for joining, man. Question: do you think miners like CleanSpark could still take out their previous highs, especially if they break their previous weekly lows, like $9 for CleanSpark? Thank you. All right. So what happened with CleanSpark? Let's take a look at CleanSpark here. So let me just share with you all some CleanSpark news. So there was a posting on X today that CleanSpark, they had their best mining day since the halving announced today, where they mined about 23 Bitcoins to date, just in the month of February 2nd. So if you factor that in, 30 days, not including 31 days, that's about 680 Bitcoins mined. So they're getting close to that 700 Bitcoins mined per month day as they ramp up their hash rate. So I think that we're going to start seeing CleanSpark climb into that 700 threshold of Bitcoin mining. So looking very solid there. As we look at, just with Mara here, one interesting chart is like, from Fibonacci trading here, he's forecasting that, it may very well break into the $21 range here. We're seeing, just lower highs here, which is consistent with my drawing here as well. I think that $21, it may very well bounce to $21 in the upcoming week. Most of us are wondering, oh, is it going to drop more? I think that it's dropped to the point where I don't suspect it to drop any further. We have, higher highs here, and just with that recent pullback back in November 27 at $30, where it currently is, definitely undervalued. Buying anything at $18 or even lower, I think that's a win-win situation. I mean, you see here, back in 2024, 2023, it reached over $30, multiple occurrences, like, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 data points where it relatively ramped up above or close to $30. So question is, can it ever get back up to 30? It's definitely a yes. So why would this be, a high risk investment right now? All right. So looks like we have more people joining here. So, yep, I appreciate you just, leaving your comments, questions down below with the Q question. I'd love to answer all the questions you guys have. I know a lot of you are wondering like what's going to happen. Bitcoin right now at 96,000. I mean, it dropped 10,000 since, the, Friday to the weekend here. So what is causing all of this? There's definitely news around, the tariffs that are happening around the globe here, and how does that impact the stock market and the Bitcoin price? That was all triggered initially last Monday with DeepSeek news with AI that really drove down a lot of the stocks, even in the tech and the Bitcoin miners and MicroStrategy. But I think that with the tariffs in the long-term course, things are just gonna not even be remembered with tariffs. I think that's gonna be a good win-win for us. Uh, I think with earnings report from MicroStrategy coming out, we can very well, cover, lots of good upside, especially the data that we saw with Tesla's earnings report. I mean, even in the aftermarket, Tesla went up 4% after that. So MicroStrategy is going to look very solid here as well. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Trader Insights. We'll definitely talk more CleanSpark bloodbath tomorrow. So most of us are worried, is it going to be a bloodbath? It may very well be, right? But I do think that, short term, we'll get through this hurdle. So my average 343. So Drizzy TV, are you referring to MicroStrategy 343 right now? Just looking at, MSTR here, we have a bullish flag that I'm drawing here. I definitely do think we're gonna have that, that pop up here earnings report. I'm thinking we're gonna have some huge numbers reported. Q4 750 is my price target as we head to April timeframe 750. All right, so yep, let me know what your questions are. So thank you, Oba, for joining here. You have a question, I'll definitely cover that next here. So J Dan with the question, the Q. So first off, thank you guys. I appreciate you all joining here. Please leave your comments, questions down, and we'll definitely have these discussions here. So how long will the bull run with the miners last? A few years, question mark. So J Dan, let me just pull up the Plan B chart again. All right, so let's take a look here. So where are we? So as we currently look at, typically Bitcoin tends to stay in the bull rally like past its Bitcoin halving. The fact that we haven't even got beyond a year yet post the halving event, we're still early in that phase. So I think it will give us more indicators as soon as we get like our very first red dot RSI, along with our next, subsequent red dots. That can give us an indicator. But I do think that 2025, we're in this, this rally. Who knows? It may end earlier than that, like in Q2, Q3. But I think that 2025 will be a year where we're going to experience a Bitcoin rally here. All right, so Trader Insights. Okay, so Oba Rod, did you go over Riot yet? So let's cover Riot platforms. All right, so we're looking at technicals here for RIOT. Yes, last week we got totally beat up, right? And I mean, all of that was attributed to DeepSeek. I mean, you saw like Core Scientific, Iron, you saw Wolf, you saw Cypher, all of the Bitcoin miners that already have AI in place. I mean, those companies got beat up. And the fact that Riot announced possible pivoting into HPC AI, they got beat up, but not beat up as bad as like Mara or CleanSpark. I mean, last week they dropped by about 12% out of the 5 days of trading. I mean, just Monday last week dropped 17%, and then the following day dropped another like 5%. That just wipes out the price. I mean, going from like $14 down to $9, but towards Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we saw some nice upward movement here. But I think it depends on how Bitcoin behaves. Towards the open of the stock market tomorrow. I mean, if it hovers below like 95,000, we're going to see some huge shorting take action, I believe. But it really just depends. I mean, who knows? The miners might have a negative correlation than Bitcoin price. It really depends. If we see some monthly production numbers that will be announced and we see huge numbers reported, that may stabilize the counter with Bitcoin price going down here. Okay, but I do think that with Riot, let's take a look at this posting here. I mean, Riot gearing up for a huge move into demand, setting up right shoulder of inverse head and shoulders here, looking for $16 to $20 to trade next. Now $11 currently. With contraction come expansion. So, volatility is vitality basically here. So I think, with this posting here, near term, looking at, $20, I'm very well thinking that $20 is going to be hit like sometime in this quarter, Q1, but I do see 3 to 5x upside with Riot platforms. So overall, I hope that answers your question. Oh, you are in a good state, man. 1107. That's solid, man. Just ride it out. You'll be in good shape. Okay, so trader insights. Won't the increase in tariff push inflation higher and put further pressure on markets as CPI, PPI, etc. rise? Thanks. So I think that's a great question. I mean, I'm not an expert with, like how tariffs, leads to like impact with inflation and all that. But the way that I look at it is tariffs, basically you have IRS, Internal Revenue Service, right? So I think a lot of what US citizens are impacted with is like high tax because of IRS charging us at like different brackets. But now Trump, he's implemented tariffs against, foreign countries who sell into the United States, and he wants to impose taxes on those sellers so that the sellers, it eats into their profit. So it's kind of like external revenue service. So it's transforming IRS risk to ERS risk. So that benefits the US citizens, but when you look at it from a global market standpoint, the velocity of global trading slows down. I mean, things might not all flow into the US, even though I'm sure it still will because there's just a big population in the US. But overall, I do think that tariffs, it's definitely going to benefit the United States to focus on bringing more jobs back here, as well as reduce costs for manufacturing, reducing price. And that's really going to help the United States be the stockpile for like Bitcoin and artificial intelligence. So yes, short term there may be some, reactionary news, but I think all of that is short lived. It's just going to go past us in about a week. All right, so Alessandro. So Alessandro is the big bear in the market here. I mean, bro, I told you Mara is going single digits 2025. Can't run company based on dilution to pay operation costs and salaries. This week will touch 15 again, and they gotta hope that holds. So I think, Alessandro, can I ask you a question? Do you have shorts or puts on Mara? Just a yes or no question. So I'm thinking yes, but I just want to confirm with you. But it's nice to have a bear in the chat as well, and you're a consistent, you know, uh, commenter. So I do like the contrary perspective that you bring. Oh well, you're welcome, man. And please, I would appreciate, those who aren't following this channel, please subscribe to All I See Is W. I would really appreciate that. All right, so William here, the Canadian dollar just hit a 22-year low because of the tariffs versus the dollar. Wow, that just shows that, yep, the prime minister, he's going to get cut very soon here. Canada, I think, is very well going to be a US state. Who knows? Jaydan, what do you feel is the best investing strategy regarding the miners? I have mostly Mara and Riot. So the best investing strategy is knowing why you are invested in a certain, company. I think it's important you understand why you're invested in a company, right? Especially when you're invested in like miners, you have to accept the fact that you're dealing with like volatility and all that as well, right? So I think that that's one thing to keep in mind. But I do think that miners have upside in the year 2025. We saw big time underperformance, but looking at like CleanSpark, for example. So I don't know if everyone here is invested in CleanSpark, but what do we see with CleanSpark 2024 around February, March? I mean, the last earnings report, February 8th, 2024, they were like at $10. The moment they announced their Q4 data, they shot up like by like $4 the next day, and then what happened? It went from $10 to $14 that next day, and then it started going up to like $25. So CleanSpark, I think that as they announced their earnings report, like in about 2 weeks from now, it's going to start gapping back up, hitting that threshold $15, and then we're going to see that retest of $18. There's no question that it's not going to, not hit this $18 threshold that we saw back in like November timeframe here. So here, short set. Okay, so Alessandro is a shorter. All right, I got you. All right, so Enrique Monkey. So Jayden, I hope that answered your question. Enrique Monkey, Mara wouldn't drop as much. It's already way undervalued. You are correct, man. I mean, how much lower can these, Bitcoin miners drop? I mean, one point the support was like at $9 for CleanSpark. Mara, I mean, how much lower can it go? I think like being able to acquire shares around $18, you're winning right now. I mean, even if you're at like $20, I wouldn't worry. I mean, because that $30 is coming up and it has so much more room in the tank. You scale out here. What happened before? This thing freaking just blew up here. I mean, this thing ran all the way up from like $3 all the way up to $83. It's been like it's been a dormant volcano for a very long time, and I do think that people are underestimating what Mara can really do. Uh, Definitely can have some huge upside here. So Mara, I definitely do think that they can dominate the market as well. Drizzy TV. So I don't like Riot, the CEO Jason Les, poker player, scammer vibes. So I think I I one thing you got to keep in mind, Drizzy, just because a CEO has a hobby in doing, like playing poker, we shouldn't have that unconscious bias to think that he's a bad person. I think, uh, you know, poker players aren't necessarily bad people, but they have, an IQ, like emotional intelligence, to know how to like strategize. You need that type of leadership skill as well. And Jason Les, I mean, he partnered with Donald Trump as well, right? So they're stirring the pot. I think that we're going to hear some, AI partnership coming up very soon here. Yep. Yep. J Dan, definitely Mara is a deal. All right, so let's take a look at Bitcoin price. All right, so we see some upward. I mean, it's getting bought here, right? I mean, every time when it hits like 96,000, it just pops back up. You see here, I mean, it dropped to 96,000, got eaten up right here. Hopefully, William is correct. We see some healthy upward motion. All right. So let me know what your questions are. Question in the chat. Just put your question in. And, does everyone think that Bitcoin by tomorrow it can run up to 100K again? Hopefully it does. So we can see some nice price action. All of this here with, tariffs and all that. I mean, that's good for the U.S. economy. I think everything that Trump is doing right now, he's definitely saving us. He's making America great again, and I think we're going to benefit, especially with the crypto stocks that are hedging Bitcoin. So like MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin miners, we're all going to, gain on the advantage with Trump being the leader here. All right. So, yep, let me know what your questions are. Nick Lee. Hi, all I see is Debbie. I am deep in CleanSpark. My average is 13.5. I like CleanSpark's operation, but with recent drop away from Bitcoin, not sure if I want to hold if it ever goes above $13. So Nick Lee, so $13. Let me ask you, so what is your strategy, right? I mean, $13. We look at CleanSpark here. I mean, this thing was at look at I mean, it was like at $9 from November 5th, November 12th, $18. So within a week, it went 50% in gains or 100% in gains from $9 to $18 within just 5 days of trading. So how would you feel if, like, let's say Monday, Tuesday, hypothetically speaking, it bumps up to like $13? I mean, selling, you are break even, right? But then like the next 2 days, it runs up to $18. As long as you can accept the fact that it goes up after selling, then that's the loss that you take. But I definitely do think that if you believe in CleanSpark for what they do, understand why you're invested in CleanSpark. And once you understand why you're invested in CleanSpark, it'll help you make the right decisions, whether you want to sell at 13 or wait until it runs back up to like 18 or even 15, right? So know how you're going to strategize with CleanSpark is the key takeaway. So Nick Lee with another question: what if CleanSpark's price drop after report? So as I mentioned, February 8th, 2024, when CleanSpark announced that they were like $10, right? What happened last year? Once they announced their Q4 data, it went up $4 the next day. So think about Q4 earnings report, earnings per share. Bitcoin reached all-time high. I mean, in Q4. So net income, earnings per share is going to, they're going to blow things out of the water. All right. So Nick Lee, I hope that answers your questions. So definitely put your questions down below if you have any more. All right. So going through the list here, Enrique Monkey, any worries about the low transaction fees currently in Bitcoin for the miners? So, yes, while that is a pain point with transaction fees, Enrique, one thing to keep in mind is like post halving, I think that the transaction fees, it ran like up, right? So all of that, it's really outside of our control. I wouldn't worry too much about transaction fees and all that. All of that's going to fluctuate, but the key takeaway is that hash rate continues to go up. So that really will be the counter against mining difficulty, and these companies continue to increase their hash rate over the course of time. All right, so we're seeing here a healthy climb back up to 97,000. Let's see how high it can go here. All right, so DRAG, based on your research and insight, what do you see RIOT's 2025 price high in? Which quarter do you think AI move along with halting mining will hurt them and RIOT? So first off, I definitely think that RIOT is like 2 times RIOT steroids. So if you like RIOT is the play to go with, right? Why not? Definitely current price. I mean, you being in at 1044, you're winning right now. I wouldn't worry because I think RIOT and RIOT, we're gonna see some run ups here. This posting here is suspecting $20 in like Q1. I do think that what we saw in the last bull cycle, RIOT can run up, but I do see 3 to 5x potential with the Bitcoin miners, like with Mara, RIOT, CleanSpark. So here, looking for $16 to $20 to trade next. Now at $11. So in the near term, we see 1.5x just from looking at the technicals and fundamentals. But I think overall, research-wise, I can't really tell like when things will happen, but definitely it all depends on Bitcoin price. I do think that Q1, we could see like some $20 upside with Riot, and any news with Stargate, any news, I mean, with SoftBank or even a big time AI client, Riot platforms can definitely run up huge. We saw what happened with Cypher last week, right? With that SoftBank $50 million announcement. Any dollars announcement with Riot platforms, Riot and Riots will freaking double up, like huge numbers. So Jdan, patience is the key right now. I definitely agree with you. I mean, um, the market, after night trading is going to happen in about like an hour or so. Most of us are scratching our heads wondering what's going to happen in the markets tomorrow. But definitely patience is a virtue. Um, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to go down. I mean, we're seeing Bitcoin get bought up, in the 90s range. I I do think that it's kind of nice seeing Bitcoin go down towards the weekend, because when that happens, where the weekend has underperformance, when the stock market opens, that's when things start flaring back up. So I think that's going to be the huge upside. Okay, let me know what your questions are. Put your questions in the chat here. But you're welcome, Nick. I hope that helped. And thank you, William. Subscribe and like for more awesome videos. So William is definitely a great time supporter here. And I hope that you all are subscribed to this channel so I can continue bringing in more value here. But just looking overall here, I mean, it's going to be interesting with earnings report. MicroStrategy. I mean, look at this right here. Bitcoin Bank. Bitcoin Bank number 2 is Mara. I mean, last month they announced that they leased 7,000 out of their close to 45,000 Bitcoins on lease. So think of like a car dealership. You're leasing out your Bitcoins like cars, and you get monthly revenue for just like letting people borrow your Bitcoin. I think Mara, Riot, CleanSpark earnings report, we're going to have some positive earnings per share, including MicroStrategy. But I think next week on Wednesday, depending on how MSTR's earnings per share, how that shows, that's going to be a driving catalyst for the miners as well. So a lot of people are going to be looking at that. All right. So what are your questions here? Put it down in the chat. We'll continue going on for another like 17 minutes. So put your chats in. Hopefully, we can answer more here. CleanSpark, just wanted to show, I mean, today they mined 23 Bitcoins today. Huge numbers. Fibonacci of Mara here, this posting here is this week. We could very well see Mara back into that 20 zone. I mean, they're going to hit that $21 hopefully come next week. And, who knows, they may very well start catapulting up here. But tomorrow we might see some turbulence, especially because of the Bitcoin price, dropping below the 100K. But good news is, the last 3 months we've been in new price territory with Bitcoin here. It's been consolidating at around 90 to 100,000 for several months now. But I do think that, February, March, April, we're going to see Bitcoin climb up as we see strategic Bitcoin reserve like all over the news lately. One thing I wanted to share, and also if you guys are on, X, follow me at alliseeisW. I would really appreciate it. You can find me there, alliseeisW. But just one thing here I wanted to post here. I mean, you see here just with the recent weeks of trading here, I mean, CleanSpark up 18%, Riot up 17%, Mara up 11%. So Iron, at 1%, MicroStrategy at 6%. So, we have CleanSpark, Riot, Mara, MSTR, Iron as the top performers here. Just wanted to share with you, it's really a race right now at the state level. So we have like a dozen of these states here trying to get a strategic Bitcoin reserve here, public endorsement. All of these states got endorsements already, like, big time Texas, Arizona, for example. The bills got introduced in these states already. Some states got committee approval. For example, Arizona, Utah got committee approval. Majority of these states, they're still awaiting for the committee approval. And now you have Arizona and Utah rushing through to get the House Senate approval. Once it's approved at the House Senate level, it's going to be signed into law. And what does that mean? Arizona and Utah can then start using their funds to buy up Bitcoin. I'm thinking like they'll start on a small scale, 5-10% of what they have to buy up Bitcoin. But that will just show that America is taking a step forward towards really implementing strategic Bitcoin reserve. And we've heard about the central Bitcoin banks. There's not going to be that, and it's going to be controlled at the state level, which is going to be a huge win. I think this is, showing how SBR is becoming, more put into action here based on the executive order that Trump signed. So DRAG, okay, so DRAG, what's your one favorite miner and why? By the way, was Tor Riot 35X from 11? Love your channel, by the way. I really appreciate DRAG. I think you're spot on there, and thanks for that comment there. I think that you have that price range forecasted correctly with that 3 to 5x potential. As for RIOX, if you have like a trading platform, I mean, they're not on StockTwits or anything like that. RIOX, it was a recently created ETF. Yes, there is an expense ratio to that, but like if you have Fidelity or any type of investing brokerage, you can find RIOX. Even on Google as well, but you won't be able to see much data since they just was released like last month. So William here, Mara is so undervalued right now, it's insane. But Bitcoin will short squeeze into tomorrow morning. Here's the one thing I noticed with Mara. I mean, in 2024, we saw how strong Mara was at certain time points. And yes, post the elections, things started dropping back. And we're beginning to see people become very impatient with Mara. A lot of people are thinking, oh, Mara's not going to go up. But again, this company, Mara, they have the highest hash rate. They have the most amount of Bitcoin for any Bitcoin miner. And they are a Bitcoin bank. I think that we're going to see some huge upsides. Who knows? Mara may very well blow things out of the water. So if you had money to invest into one of the miners tomorrow, which miner would you invest in and why? So great question. I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, who knows how things behave tomorrow, but one of the strategies that can work is like, let's say if you're basing it off of the big three miners, or if you're going more towards like a hybrid miner HPC play. I mean, we saw huge pullbacks with Core Scientific, with Iron, with Wolf, and all that, right? I mean, last week they dropped like more than 20%. So because there was like heavy drop downs with the share price, any of those stocks, if I think for any Bitcoin stock that is well established, the one that drops the most in the week, buying those ones makes the safest sense, because the biggest drop would lead to the biggest pop, depending on how you're playing it. And yes, you're right, Oba. I mean, Rix, that thing jumps up and down like freaking like a yo-yo. So on a day like on Monday when DeepSeek came out, if you bought after that day or during that day, I mean, you're in it to win it. Like just holding it for like a day or two, you can gain like 20-25% easily. as Riot price goes up like just 10%, RIOT goes up 20%. But then again, as Riot platform stock goes down by 10%, RIOT goes down by 20%. So, just buying in on the days when it drops, you could very well take advantage. So, William, I think, if you wanted to play, take a look at RIOT. Even if Riot platforms drops 5%, RIOT would be down 10%. You buy at a discount of 10%, and then, Riot goes up, the next day 5%, RIOT goes up 10%. You gain 20% on your investment there already, just holding on to it for like a day. So which miners do you think have become irrelevant? So that really is tough. I mean, not all miners are going to succeed, right? But I do think that there's beginning to be like an increased demand for the miners because of their energy wattage capacity. I think, like even Bit Farms, they're not a North American company, right? But now it's like they're trying to get into HPC AI as well. I tend to stay away from the miners that aren't too well established, even though they have upsides when you least expect it to. They can run up more. Um, but I don't typically look at like Cypher or Wolf or like Hut 8 or BitDeer. Reasons why I don't look at BitDeer and Hut 8 is because they were the ones that outperformed in the year 2024. So to me, I think there's more upsides in the miners that significantly underperform, like Mara, CleanSpark, and Riot in the recent time points. So yes, I would say those are the miners that I think have become irrelevant from a technical standpoint. Bitcoin here at 97,000. Hopefully it climbs back up to 98,000. I mean, let's see how it can perform here. Any other questions from anyone? I mean, we have about 8 more minutes. I'd love to see what questions you guys have here. And again, if you guys are listening and you guys haven't, subscribed yet, please do so to subscribe. I would really appreciate my channel here. And let's say if you haven't seen the video I released today, it'll give you an overview of everything here. So I would love for you all to, take a look at that video. I like the video, and yep, let me know what your thoughts are. So I'll take one more question because it seems like we're not getting much questions coming in here. I'll take one last question. What do I think of BTBT? Okay, let's take a look at BTBT. Bit Digital. All right, so BTBT. So just looking at the 1 year chart, during that Trump timeframe, most miners ran up at 552. Where it currently is, I definitely think that it's undervalued. We can see that it can from a technicals. I like the price point that it currently is in right now. So BTBT, definitely not a bad selection here. So DRAG, okay. So please walk us through how you came into Bitcoin miners. So how I came into Bitcoin miners, it really just comes down to everything is a levels game. back during COVID times, I made a lot of videos that was more so like focused on like biotech stocks and all that. Because during that time, there was an increased demand for like COVID vaccines and all of that. So during that time when everyone was at home, I mean, the biotech stocks were the ones that were like shooting up left and right. But now that sector kind of died down, right? So now people look for like the next type of, story that's out there that has, heavy inflows. And right now it's all about, Bitcoin, AI stocks. So techs, big time techs getting into AI. So that's why I think that Bitcoin miners is why like I wanted to get involved into Bitcoin miners. As a hedge into investing into like the Bitcoin commodity, because you can't talk Bitcoin without talking about Bitcoin miners, and you can't talk Bitcoin miners without Bitcoin, because without the miners, the whole crypto market wouldn't even exist. So, that's how I came into the Bitcoin mining sector. I saw a lot of interest in it. I saw that the miners, can on certain instances outperform Bitcoin, which is why I grew a big time interest in the Bitcoin miners. Even though last year it was a big beatdown with the miners, huge underperformance, but I don't think that's going to be the case in 2025. That's for sure. So, question: what are your thoughts on the tariffs, and how do you think it will affect the Bitcoin price? So, as I was searching up, you know, um, BTBT here, Dow futures dropped 500 points after Trump hits Canada, Mexico, and China with tariffs. So the future is dropping. Stock futures tumbled Sunday night to kick off a new trading month as investors weighed new U.S. tariffs on goods from key trade partners and their potential impact on the economy and corporate profits. So, Trump slapped a 25% tariffs from Mexico and Canada. He placed a 10% levy on imports from China. Uh, and, the U.S. does about 1.6 trillion in business with these three countries. So the sellers from these countries it'll eat into their profits. And as a result, that will benefit the U.S. Markets may now need to take the rest of Trump's tariffs agenda literally rather than just seriously. Monday could be a rough day for the market. So not only including Bitcoin, but the stock market. So why do I think Bitcoin price has a direct correlation with the stock market? Because now you have ETFs on the New York Stock Exchange. So if the stock market drops, Bitcoin is going to go down with it as well. So I hope that answers the question. But I do think that, whether it's beyond this week, all of the tariffs news is going to be priced in. I think we've already anticipated that. I do think that we can see Bitcoin even be corrected even further. But I think that we're going to see heavy buying opportunities. People seeing it below 100K. People are just going to keep buying up the dips. So I wouldn't be too worried about this here, although that might have an impact on the different miners and MicroStrategy as well. So Jaden, I don't know too much about the miners for gold and silver, but I think that those type of commodities as well may very well perform. It's just that I'm more so interested in the crypto miners right now, the Bitcoin miners. So Bitfarms, what do I think about that company? I think that they're doing pretty good for the size of their company. I mean, mining around 250 Bitcoins per month, and current price definitely undervalued, and they're positioning into potential HPC AI. So definitely some huge upside. Share price, where it currently is at like $1.50, 140, extremely undervalued. We saw how high it ran up at one point. So definitely, has some opportunity. Okay, so here fast trades. Do you think MSTR will go down on earnings? It usually does from past earnings. to me, I don't think that it's going to go down. I think that they're going to show some big numbers, similar to how Tesla showed numbers. So I definitely don't think that MSTR is going to have underperformance. Tesla announced 600 millions in profit just on holding 10,000 bitcoins. You look at MicroStrategy, 470,000 bitcoins on their balance sheet. So think about the income that they got from just holding on to Bitcoin. All right, so I think we are over time here. We're over an hour here. I'm a little bit tired after answering all the questions. Like these live streams, as much as how much I love it, it really does take a toll on me with, like being able to like research and answer all the questions you guys have. I hope that this was valuable. Hopefully, we see some, upward movements with the investments that we're in. And again, thank you guys for joining. I hope that you all enjoyed this here. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and take a look at the recent video I just released. Take a look at it. Thank you all for your support. I really appreciate all the love and support. We'll do this again next week, okay? If you guys can join, but hope you guys have a healthy and solid week ahead of you. And please make sure to also, focus on your health. Go to the gym, work out, and build on that strength as well. Obara, you're welcome, man. Thanks for stopping by. Please make sure to subscribe as well, man. I look forward to your comments on your investment. All right, take care, guys. See you later.